Welcome to the New Writer Podcast, weekly update for June 27th, 2015. I'm Matt Brotherton, author of the Seven Keys Saga and other works of speculative fiction. So, it's been a big week here in the United States. A lot of stuff's gone on. Not a whole lot has affected the writing world, but some of the stuff has affected a lot of my friends directly, specifically. So, I'm pretty excited. For me personally, I have gotten some writing done. I got book 5 of the Seven Keys Saga Purpose back from my editor. It's for the first round, and it needs quite a bit of work still. But I'm hoping to be able to release that here within the next few weeks. So right now, my writing has been... My word count is low, but I'm working on very specific chunks of a story, and I've got my next project that I'm working on also getting started there. I haven't worked on the romance novel I talked about before because I'm not sure I can write one that's any good. I'm going to keep trying, but we'll see where that goes. So word count wise, this week is sitting at about 4,500 words. It's actually like 4,633. But it's all, like I said, it's all very specific, focused writing. It's none of it's just narrative structure. Free downloads on Choices. I had 25 this week with 2 sales of other books. So I didn't really make any money, but that's not necessarily bad. There's been a lot going around lately about how to make sure you keep pushing through and not let yourself get discouraged and not... worry too much about the lack of success, especially in your first couple of years, 5 years, 10 years of writing. So I kind of wanted to talk about that because if you've been listening to the weekly updates, you know I don't sell a ton of books. I don't even have a ton of free downloads, and you might think that might be an indication that I'm doing something wrong, and I probably am. I mean, there's lots of stuff I'm doing wrong. Like, I don't have perfect covers, or I need to work on my blurbs, my product descriptions. But just not having sales is not an indicator that you're not doing things right or that you're on the wrong path. And I think too many people forget that. Like, yes, I want to do this full time. I would like to make a living with my writing. I'd like to be able to say, this is me and this is what I do for a living. I'd like to travel while I'm doing it. But that's not an important part of that, is knowing that it's not something that you have happen immediately. And too many people forget that. Like, you can't just count on having one book and becoming super successful. You have to continue to strive and improve your craft. And for me, my long-term goals, it was a 5-year plan. So I'm actually getting close to the end of the second year of my 5-year plan, and I'm in a place that I want to be. I've written 5 books, a couple of novellas, a handful of short stories, and I feel like I'm growing substantially with each project as a writer. My writing, my craft is getting better, my storytelling is getting better, my story structure is getting better. So for me, it's... when I left Kansas City and moved out here to the middle of nowhere, Montana, my plan was to spend 5 years in a good job, which I got, working on becoming a writer. And I related that to going to college. So if you want to master a trade, if you want to become a professional at something, you go to classes, you take school, you do all that stuff, you do the work. And so if you wanted to become, say, a business analyst, you would go to school for 4 to 5 years minimum. After, you would go to college for 4 or 5 years to get your degree. And I think of my writing along the same way. So basically, my first year out here was learning how to put together an entire book to actually force myself to finish something. And then the second year has been honing the craft. Now that I know I can write a book, I need to learn how to write a good book. And actually, I don't even want to write a good book. I want to learn to write an amazing book. So right now, this year has been really slow, but I feel like as a writer and a storyteller, I'm growing substantially. But I'm also only a sophomore by my own metaphor, so I still have a lot of learning to do and a long way to go. And I think thinking of it in those terms of the 5-year plan of being in education, or if you're a tradesman, I'm in my apprenticeship. I'm not even a journeyman yet. So when I look at it that way, it encourages me to keep going and trying and becoming better. But it also lets me know, like, I'm in a place now where I can recognize my weaknesses, but I haven't built them up into strengths yet. And that's pretty much what I'm focusing on, is taking my weaknesses and learning to grow as a writer and get better. The other side of that, the side of that I really lack on is the, like, covers and things like that, promotion. I'm not good at that stuff. One of my problems with book covers is that I don't like most book covers. I think that most books, especially in the traditionally published world, have crap covers. Especially in the urban fantasy and epic fantasy genres. They're all boring and bland and extremely cliche, and I hate them. And I know I need to embrace that cliche, that trope, because that's what readers expect, but I don't want to. So that's why I actually recently read Court of Nightfall, the first book of that, and I was pretty excited because the covers for Court of Nightfall are silhouette, black with pastel colors, and they're very reminiscent of my own, which made me realize that I'm not wrong in my covers. I probably need to invest in getting someone who's more artistically talented than myself to improve the same concept. And I'm not comparing, like, the quality. I think my covers have a decent quality to them, but if you look at the Court of Nightfall cover with the same basic concept as the Seven Keys Saga covers, that cover is so much better than what I've got. And so what I need to do is find someone to take that to the next level, which involves quite a bit of money. Getting custom covers done is kind of expensive. So I've been saving up all of my sales income, just completely. I don't touch it at all. So I can invest in getting new covers for the Seven Keys Saga, all 5 books now, and the box set that will be coming out with book 5. So that's what I've been working on. It is a long-term savings goal because, like I said, I sold 2 books this week, so that was $4.12 that I made. I have saved up about $480 so far, which is enough to get like 1 cover done. And that's actually where I'm kind of struggling with a decision, is I don't know if I should invest in getting like a new cover for Choices when I can't afford to do the entire series, or with my new project, I'm starting a new series, just start there, get that cover done, and if that works and makes money, brings in money, use that money to improve the covers for the Seven Keys Saga. And those are decisions that I'll have to make, and I'm trying to struggle and figure out with. But right now, I'm just focused on getting books done and the craft. Because you can get a new cover, guys. You can re-upload a damn book if it has errors in it that someone catches. You can fix those errors and re-upload the damn book. You don't have to be perfect. You should be as perfect as you can. Your work deserves as much work as you can put into it. Your book deserves to be as good as it can be. But you don't need to have other people telling you that your shit isn't good enough because you didn't do what they told you to do. And that's a big, important thing to remember. You can improve. You can get better. And if it's total garbage and you can't make it better, you can just take it down. Now, this probably isn't the best advice. There's probably a lot of well-paid, high-end indie authors out there going, don't listen to that, that's bullshit. But here's the problem is, they all did it. That's the thing that really makes me angry a lot of the time in the indie community is you get these people, these hypocrites, who tell you, you can't make it with crappy covers, you can't make it with budget editing, you can't do these things and that things and those things and all that, and it's bullshit because they did it. Go back in time 5 years and look at the covers of some of the biggest name indie authors right now, and they're garbage. You look at their editing, and it was well edited, but it wasn't perfect. And when people tell you that stuff, they're not trying to dissuade you. They're not trying to discourage you. They're actually they're saying what they feel is in your best interest. And they're right. If you can afford to get these awesome covers done, if you can afford $5,000 editing, do it. But if you can't, work towards being able to do it. Everything comes in incremental steps, and you have to do what you can do now while continuing to work towards more. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be super successful financially when you put out a book with a cover that isn't perfect or good enough, or if you go with the editor who charges 1 cent a word instead of 6 cents a word. They say you get what you pay for, and maybe you do. What I'm saying is, do what you can now and move forward. It drives me insane when people say you have to be at the level of perfection, but you're not. You're an apprentice in a program. Apprentices don't do masterwork. They have to work towards that. They have to grow towards that. And part of the growing towards that is putting your work out there and getting feedback on it. And the best way to do that is to put it out on the market. So if you just give your story to beta readers and friends and family and people you know, you're not going to get the feedback that you need to grow. If you publish it, you might not have any sales. You might have 1, 2, 3 sales a year, but you're probably going to get feedback from an audience. You're going to have people say, no, this is bad because of this reason. Or this is really good, but it has these weaknesses. And that's the kind of feedback you need to be able to grow. And you shouldn't be afraid of that. You shouldn't be upset by that. Every time you see that, you should say, okay, I'm 1 step closer to being a journeyman and 1 step closer to being a master. That's the secret to getting better at anything in this world, is everybody starts out sucking, and you iteratively use small steps, grow towards something more. Sorry, I'm done ranting about that now. Thank you guys for watching this. Thank you for listening. It's been really good doing this podcast every week, and I'm glad that I was encouraged to keep going and keep doing this, because these are things that I need to say to myself sometimes too. And it's not always a bad thing. I don't have a huge audience, but the audience I have is mine. And just like with the books, it's small steps. It grows over time. You get better. You get more professional. You can afford to make mistakes because you got time. Really, when it comes down to anything in this world, time is what everything costs. So look at it that way. In any situation, with any skill, anything you want in this life, it's about the time you're willing to put into it. Even if you spend $1,000 on something, that $1,000 represents an amount of time in your life that you had to work to earn it. Everything comes down to time. If you put in the time to do anything, if you grow, if you get better, if you put in the time, you will get better. There's no if. It's all about that amount of time. So for me, it's about the time I'm taking to put into my craft. It's about the time I'm taking to learn to do podcasting stuff better, which I don't know if I actually am or not, but I'm trying. I'm trying to do those things. And I'm willing to give myself the time to do it. Like I said, it's a 5-year plan. The podcast is not necessarily part of that 5-year plan, but I like doing it. And it helps me deal with my own life and my own issues as a writer. And I hope it helps you too. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a nice weekend.